Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund's annual Black Philanthropy Month celebration and our monthly support group meeting. I am Thelma D. Jones, founder, thriver, advocate, and proud ACS Voices of Black Women ambassador, which I'll touch on later on. So thank you everyone for joining us tonight by Zoom and Facebook Live. And just in terms of a bit of housekeeping, if you are not speaking, please remain muted so we can avoid any background disturbances. It is truly an honor to gather with survivors, thrivers, caregivers, advocates, supporters, community leaders, and friends as we celebrate Black Philanthropy Month and the power of giving within communities. This year's theme is Many Voices, One Movement. What a meaningful theme. Although we come from different backgrounds, professions, faith traditions, experiences, and generations, we are united by a shared commitment to helping others. Our many voices tell different stories, yet together they create one powerful movement rooted in compassion, service, generosity, and hope. The movement of philanthropy is not reserved just for the wealthy. It belongs to all of us. And sorry, I was not aware that I was not on video. It's very important for you to see my lovely face. So as I was saying, the movement of philanthropy is not reserved for just the wealthy. It's for all of us. The word philanthropy comes from a Greek word meaning love of humanity. Simply put, philanthropy is the act of promoting the welfare of others through generous giving of our time, talent, treasure, testimony, and resources. Many people do not realize that every time they give an offering at church, and I can just tell we're all generous tithers, when we support a community organization, contribute to a scholarship fund, volunteer their time, mentor a young person, organize a meal train. So a number of you were on the phone when I was talking about the food program that the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund has, support a family in crisis, or donate to a cause they believe in. They are engaging in philanthropy. How many of you ever looked at philanthropy from that perspective? Okay. Philanthropy is woven throughout the history of Black communities. Long before we had access to significant financial resources, we cared about one another through mutual aid societies, churches, civic organizations, and neighborhood support networks. We understood then, as we do now, that when one of us rises, we all rise. So tonight, we celebrate that rich legacy with the wonderful guest speakers that we have, namely Sylvia Powers from NCBC, Akilah Wallace, who's with the Wallace organization and an award-winning, who's with the Taylor Wallace organization and an award-winning philanthropist. We also have my longtime and dear friend, Edward Jones, who will not only talk about his professional experience, but he will share in an inextricably intertwined way how his professionalism and personal life have operated together. So here at the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund, we are especially proud that we've celebrated Black Philanthropy Month every year since 2017. So this is not new to us. This tradition began through the vision and encouragement of philanthropist Tracy Webb, who was a former board member of the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund. Tracy sponsored Black Philanthropy Month celebrations during the first 3 consecutive years and significantly expanded our understanding of Black philanthropy through her work with giving circles and collective giving. Her leadership helped us to appreciate that philanthropy is not solely about individual contributions, but also about communities coming together to pool resources, create opportunities, and drive meaningful change. We remain grateful for Tracy's commitment and the foundation she has helped establish for this annual celebration. So the spirit of philanthropy is at the heart of everything we do here at the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund. Our mission is to educate, empower, and support individuals impacted by breast cancer while helping to reduce health disparities in underserved communities. Through support group meetings, educational programs, community outreach, advocacy, and resource sharing, we strive to ensure that no one faces breast cancer alone, which is so important. As a survival-led organization, we understand firsthand the importance of community, compassion, and connection. In many ways, the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund reflects tonight's theme, Many Voices, One Movement. The voices of survivors, caregivers, healthcare professionals, advocates, and volunteers, as well as donors, faith leaders, and community partners come together as one movement dedicated to hope, healing, and health equity. We are deeply grateful to everyone who supports this work through their time, talent, treasure, testimony, and resources. So as we celebrate the impact of philanthropy and community leaders, I want to briefly address one small change in our program tonight. I know many of you received a flyer that our guest speaker was going to be Virginia Ali, who is the co-founder of Ben's Chili Bowl. She's also an entrepreneur, a community leader, and a well-respected DC icon. And I'm taking full credit for the era of Mrs. Ali not being here. So a long time ago when I invited her, I apparently made a typo in the date. And instead of August the 19th, I had August the 29th in it. So of course, when I called to remind her that everything was still a go, and I look forward to seeing her tomorrow night. And actually, Jan Adams, my honorary board member, was organizing this on my behalf. That is when we discovered she had the wrong night on her calendar. So Mrs. Ali offered to, she was very gracious. She tried every way possible to make it work, including asking, what if we changed the date to the 29th? And I was very pleased about that, but I told her that there were commitments and it was a little difficult. So Mrs. Ali has made it very clear that she wants to come back she wants to come and speak. So this will not be her first time speaking for an event that I have hosted. During my years at the World Bank, Mrs. Ali was a guest speaker for my Black History program 30 or 40 years ago. So I look forward to having her back. And again, I apologize. But as we know, as one door closes, another one opens, and Sylvia Powers and Akilah Wallace, that Dallas connection, just opened another door. And we have a great lineup of speakers here who will embody the spirit of philanthropy, service, advocacy, and community empowerment. So tonight we're going to hear these powerful perspectives from leaders who understand firsthand the spirit of philanthropy and the importance of giving back, paying forward, and lifting others as they climb. So at this time, it is my pleasure to invite Elder Sandra Butler, who is a breast cancer survivor and someone that I've only met virtually and look forward to speaking at their congregation in October. So Sandra is with Zion Hill Baptist Church, and she will offer an opening blessing. So Elder Butler, the floor is yours.
Well, good afternoon and good God bless you. If you feel comfortable, just tilt your head, close your eyes, and let's bless God. Gracious and ever faithful God, we gather this evening with a grateful heart to celebrate Black Philanthropy Month and the power of community. Thank you for the many voices represented here: survivors, thrivers, caregivers, advocates, family members, friends, and supporters. Though our stories are all different, we are united by one purpose: to uplift, to heal, and to bring hope to one another. Bless the work of the TDJBCF Breast Cancer Support Group and all whose lives have been touched by breast cancer. Renew our strength, deepen our compassion, and remind us that no act of kindness or gratitude is ever too small to make a difference. As we embrace the theme, many voices, one movement, inspire us to transform our hope into action. May our collective support of the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund help provide resources, encouragement, and healing to those who need it most. Let us leave today uplifted in faith, united in purpose, and inspired by the knowledge that together we are stronger, together we are healing, and together we are creating lasting change. Amen.
Amen. Amen. And thank you, Elder Butler, for that wonderful blessing and helping us to get centered about our wonderful program this evening. So, our first featured speaker is a dedicated advocate whose work has impacted countless individuals affected by breast cancer. So, Sylvia Powers is a breast cancer advocate from Dallas, Texas, and serves as a project coordinator with the National Consortium of Breast Centers, an organization for which the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund is a proud member of. Through her professional expertise and personal commitment to advocacy, she has worked tirelessly to improve awareness, support, and access to resources for individuals navigating the breast cancer journey. There is certainly a lot more that I can tell you about Sylvia, but I'm going to use this valuable time so that our speakers, our audience can hear our speakers, because here at the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund, we try not to spend a lot of time introducing our speakers so that they can have more time to talk to the audience. So please join me in warmly welcoming Sylvia Powers. Sylvia.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Thelma. You are amazing woman, and I often share how for years I wanted to meet you, and once we finally met, we were just joined at the hip. So I thank God that our paths did cross, but when they crossed for a greater purpose. Tonight is a very powerful night because it's something that we don't think about in our community. We don't think about philanthropy. I remember when I heard the word, such a large word, philanthropy, you think about Bill Gates, you think about all these people giving millions of dollars and making a great impact. But I know if you're not speaking, you're supposed to be on mute, but take yourself off mute, and I want you to say, we can do this.
We can do this.
Okay, one more time, all together. We can do this.
We can do this.
Right. All right. And that's what Black Philanthropy Month is about. We can do this. We can support our communities. We can make an impact on those organizations that service our communities. We can do this. And I just have 10 things that I want to share with you, 10 steps for philanthropy. That Black philanthropy, number one, is not always about writing a check. We think it's about dollars, but a lot of times it's about time. It's about service. So if you don't have the financial resources to help an organization, you can give your time. You can help them. You can make calls. You can call other people who have money to donate. You can send out letters to people that can donate. You can send out emails to people that can donate. So even if you don't write a check, you can give your time. So being a philanthropist doesn't necessarily mean that you write the big check, is that you give the big gift. And sometimes that big gift is you. The second thing is that giving is a part of the Black community. As Thelma was talking about when she first gave her introduction to the month, I remember as a little girl, we would have these fish fries, we would have chicken dinners, and I never thought about that as philanthropy. But the bottom line is that the building got paid off because there were sisters in the kitchen every Friday frying chicken, frying fish. And as a result of that, the financial needs were met by the church. I didn't put all of them together, but they all fit. So whether it's the traditional way that we think about, or it's the non-traditional way that many of us grew up with, philanthropy is a way of us giving and making an impact in our community. Number three, Black-led organizations deserve your investment, because they're the ones that are actually investing in us. Those are the ones that are supporting our kids with programs. Those are the ones that are doing the back to school drives. Those are the ones that are helping with domestic violence. Those are the ones that are doing breast cancer awareness, making sure that women that are underserved are getting mammograms. Those are the ones that are helping our communities, and they need our help. So they deserve our investment. Number four, Black philanthropy can help with health disparities. As I mentioned, the organizations that are in the community, they're the ones that are making sure that women that don't have insurance are served. We are the ones that know the disparities that are happening in our community. So we are the best ones to help to address those needs. Number five, the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund demonstrates philanthropy in action. As Thelma every month brings people together for her support group meetings, she brings top-notch talent to share about issues, some things that I hadn't even heard of in the breast cancer community. She makes sure that we get the best information and that she connects people, that she's constantly giving. And that is a form of philanthropy for our community and for survivors, that they get the information, they get the resources, they get the support. So her organization is just an example of how philanthropy works at its best. Number six, Thelma's story shows personal experience becomes community impact. As she talks about working with the World Bank, as she shares her testimony of being a survivor, and as she shares other survivor stories on this platform, it shows and shares the importance of community and how her story impacts the community, encourages others to understand they can survive, and is a ground for us wanting to give and to sow seeds into her organization. Number 7, Black philanthropy also creates a legacy. One of the reasons that I looked at when I got involved with breast cancer, it wasn't just about me and about people that I know in breast cancer. I wanted to make sure that my granddaughters did not have to deal with the impact of breast cancer. So as Thelma sows seeds into her organization, as she shares, this becomes bigger than her. It's about the legacy that she's going to leave for others in her community. As a result of our philanthropy, we create legacy for our community that lives on beyond the person that is founding the organization. Number 8, and this is something that we all have to get, is that small gifts become powerful when a community comes together. I remember looking at a story about Barack Obama and his campaign, and I thought, oh, he raised all of this money, but his major donors gave $25. So it was the impact of all those $25 that turned into millions. Today, when I first got up and I thought I was going to be giving this talk, I made a donation from my nonprofit. I made a donation personally. I posted on Facebook and encouraged other people to make donations. So all of that comes together to build support so that Thelma can help people in the community that may not be able to keep their utilities on, that are struggling to pay their rent, that need grocery money. That $10 added with somebody else's 10, then you have 100. That 100 added with somebody else's 25 and somebody else's 25, then you have 200, then you have 500, then you have 1,000. So it's everybody coming together with whatever you can give. If it's 5, 10, 15, 20, and then there are those people that can write the $1,000 check. We need them too. But if we come together, we make it all work together, no matter how small the gift. It multiplies as we multiply and bring it together as one. Number 9, August 28th provides a special opportunity to give. August 28th is a day of philanthropy when it comes to Black Philanthropy Month. That's another opportunity. We have Giving Tuesday, but in our community, we need to be stressing that date. Some people have never even heard of that date. Use that as an opportunity to help raise money for our community and for our organizations. And lastly, number 10, our message should be to give, to serve, to connect, and to advocate. As we give, as we serve, and as we connect on another level, we bring forth advocacy to bring about a change, to make a difference, and to make an impact. And that's what Black Philanthropy Month is all about. I didn't want to take much of your time today because the person that I want to share with you is an amazing example of Black philanthropy. Akilah Wallace is the founder and chair of the Heritage Giving Fund. It's an organization she started in 2017, and that's how I met her. That organization served Black women and girls, and it brought together funds of over $100,000 in grants. Wallace has previously served as executive director of the Faith in Texas and as vice president of development of a Big Thought. Today, she leads the Taylor Wallace, a social impact consulting firm that works with nonprofits, philanthropy, and leaders, fundraising, organization capacity, strategies, and equitable philanthropy giving. Her honors include being named 2019 Philanthropist of the Year by Young Black and Giving Back Institute, recognized as an inaugural Black woman Give Back list, and also she was recognized by the Dallas Business Journal for 40 under 40. She is a powerful woman. I remember when I first met her, And this was the first time I'd even heard of Black Philanthropy Month. And I walked into this room full of Black women, and they were talking about Black Philanthropy Month. And when they introduced her, I was shocked. I mean, this was a young woman, and she had been voted Philanthropist of the Year. To see someone that was just that dedicated to giving, to making an impact, I realized that my small amount could matter. And that's what we all have to realize. No matter what you give, as long as you're giving back and you're giving to the community, it can make an impact. I would like for Akilah to share with you points about Black philanthropy.
Well, good evening, and thank you so much, Ms. Jones, Sylvia, and everyone who's here this evening, and also Reverend Butler for that beautiful prayer and welcoming us in this space. I want to start by saying that this is a full circle moment for me, in that Edward Jones, who's on here, truly is one of the individuals who planted the initial seed in me back in, I don't know, 2013 or so, or 2014, whenever I had reached out to the Community Investment Network and was a young new person in fund development or in the philanthropy space, working for a community foundation. And I had been working there, and I was asking the question, where are my people? I didn't see many of us there as those who were being cultivated as donors and contributors to this space, as well as related to the organizations that I was seeing being awarded funds. And I asked again, where are we? Where are more women of color and donors of color? And why aren't more of us showing up in this space or being invited? And I was told, go find them. And it was through that research that I was connected to Mr. Edward Jones and many others who opened my eyes to understanding that there was this whole other world that centered around collective giving, and specifically around giving circles, and the ways that Black folks were pulling our individual resources together for a greater impact. That seed resulted in what has resulted in the birth of many other giving circles that are culturally centered, and those that are investing not only in just Black philanthropists, Black causes, but also Asian American, Hispanic, and others groups that has now yielded millions of dollars of investment here in the North Texas region. So yes, I'm here based in the Dallas area, DeSoto resident, but I just want to give my ultimate respect, love, and sincere gratitude and thank you to Edward and others through Emily Johnson with Young Black and Giving Institute, Valeda Forward, Tracy Webb, so many others, Joy Webb, and so many others who I was able to learn about across nationally who were already doing this work. How that connects to, how I've seen Black philanthropy was, one, I had been involved in community organizations as a young professional, deeply involved with like the Urban League, and many other institutions in my hometown of Columbus, Ohio. I've served on the King Arts Complex marketing committee there, and was in leadership development programs where they was like, you need to serve, in the community. And so my entryway to serving was on committees and boards. But then I started to think back to being a young girl and what I was exposed to by way of my mother and by way of my maternal grandmother, and just my family in general, my father through his employee giving and him always, participating in that. And I think about how I was influenced organically through my family and community members, and the little ways that they said, someone asked me to do something for someone else or some other cause, and they would do it. And it didn't matter what we had, they were willing to give a little bit, which then also speaks to the statistics And that USA Giving had confirmed through reporting some years ago, and I'm sure it's still consistent, that Black folks here in this country give the greatest percentage of our dollars, our earnings, our household earnings to philanthropy or to charitable giving over any other group. As much as, they want to talk about just our spending power, which is in the billions. I think it's important during this Black Philanthropy Month and always that we recognize the intentional investments that Black folks invest in our communities and in others, to be honest, by the various ways that we show up with, as we've heard, our time, with our talents, with our treasures, with our testimony, that is, in our ties. The testimony piece is very special to me in the way that it's directly tied to Black folks and how we tell our stories, how we spread the good news, and how that continues to create a ripple effect that ultimately results in greater impact for our families. Even if we're just starting with our families, I'm sure, somebody we've experienced that phone call that someone in our own family is in need, and how we come together and we show up for each other. And so I'm grateful for the storytelling through our testimonies, but also our ties and our relationships and our connectivity, and how we speak about one another. We bring each other into rooms and spaces that ultimately helps to yield further investment, support, and resources to move our people and ultimately greater society forward. Sylvia, did you want me to? I have a couple of things I want to touch on, but I want short of flow, so I want to make sure I am mindful of the intent.
No, you're so on point, and like I said, you really were an eye opener when I first met you, and I saw this young Black woman that was using her money to make an impact. But not only that, we're bringing people together with small amounts of money, and that we're doing great things. So yes, if you have a couple other points, I definitely want you to go ahead and to make those.
Yes, thank you in going back to Heritage Giving Fund, which was the Giving Circle that I helped co-found around 2017 here to serve the North Texas region. Was a collective of primarily was working or partnering with Black women in the community, many of us already we worked in the nonprofit industry. So we were like, in addition to we show up every day with as our career paths, we still want to do and give more. I think it's important in thinking about the size of the gifts for our Giving Circle. Our threshold to kind of be a part of was there were two membership levels. One was to commit to investing $500 per year, and then there was $1,000 per year. We wanted the entry points, and we wanted to be this Giving Circle to be accessible to many people of diverse age, economic status, socioeconomic status, et cetera. And so in breaking that down, so for those who were giving the $500 per month, and it's important to note, many of us were on monthly installments. There weren't many folks who just cut the check on day one and then was like, I'm good to go. Many of us were on monthly installments. And so for that $500 member, they were making a contribution of $41.67 per month for a year. For that $1,000 member, it was $83.33 per month. And when people saw it in that way, it made it more accessible. And for many folks, it's like, oh, you know what? I spend that much on one meal at Papa Dough, or just out with my people, So it seemed realistic and beyond. And then just sowing that seed, and then us coming together and making collective decisions around, one, just even sharing the good news around different organizations, all of which were primarily led by Black women, and that serve majority Black women and their girls in our community. We came together, we learned about different causes and issues and the opportunities, to get behind these wonderful leaders and these organizations and cause and have an impact. And so being able to see that, like in our first year, I think it was about 30 something women, who invested in us being able to award, I believe that first year was around maybe $27,000 to about or 6 organizations. That was huge. And it was an example for this region. Beyond, yes, and I don't want to minimize the historical contributions of sororities, fraternities, and other Black auxiliaries, who continue to invest in various causes and scholarships and helping to, in their unique ways. This was another avenue or tool for folks who, like myself, who I'm not associated with any other group, for me as an individual to say, oh, here's a way for me to be in community with others, and to be able to make not only a financial contribution, but also the ways in which my talents were able to show up in my perspective. And ultimately, my last point on the gift circle is that we helped shape and change the narrative about philanthropy in this region in a very intentional way. We were very intentional about ensuring that Black Philanthropy Month was highlighted. We helped to ensure that Black Philanthropy Month was designated or received proclamations from local cities here in this area. We partnered with media outlets and just wanted to make sure that we were constantly putting Black Philanthropy Month and Black philanthropy on the forefront in a very special way, in a way that helped to debunk what I believe was, kind of a narrative in this particular region, that most of the, folks whose names were on buildings or, who were highlighted or being considered for who you should consider for funding opportunities were predominantly white-led and white-centered. And so I'm grateful that we were able to contribute to that, create a major ripple effect in the way in which Black Philanthropy Month, there's so many different people and institutions that highlight it and prioritize and center it here in this region. And I'd like to believe that the nearly 70-something women who've been a part of Heritage through the years helped in doing that by way of their service and their work with this philanthropic endeavor.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Akilah. You have definitely helped to round the corners for our imagination as we look at what philanthropy is about. And I thank you for being a voice. I thank you for being a face. And I thank you for helping us to realize, yes, we can do this. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Thelma.
Thank you so much. And both of you touched on a number of things that are important and that I am confident that our audience appreciated hearing. Sylvia, we'd love to get your 10 points so that we can repeat them either in our newsletter or in one of the many campaigns that I send out. I know when Akilah was talking about the donations and things. And I think it's important that we remember or not forget how our donations can leverage increasing and inspiring other donations. When we talk, and Akilah also mentioned about Black philanthropists, I mean, there are a number of them. Of course, we all know about Oprah Winfrey and all what she has done, both in this country and in other countries. We also know about Robert Smith, the person who made donations to a number of places and helped with graduates at Morehouse. And when I really think about leveraging donations, we can't forget about Osceola McCarthy. Remember, she was the cleaning lady who lived in Mississippi. And she cleaned, she's from 2 or 3 generations of women who clean houses. And she saved her money from, I think it was from the time that she was 8 years old. And then at a point when she didn't even know how to deposit money into a bank account, and she went to the bank, and of course it makes me wonder, and I had to tell myself every time I read her stories, Thelma, your thoughts shouldn't go there. This was an uneducated woman who had saved all these years, and she took money to a bank. I mean, I wonder, gee, did they take or keep some of it? At any rate, she donated $150,000 of her savings of scrubbing and ironing and cleaning white people's homes. And she donated that money to the University of Southern Mississippi. And when the community heard what she had done, they all came together with their donations. And I can't remember if it doubled or tripled it, but anyway, it caused the endowment of the University of Mississippi to grow exponentially. And it was donated, which I thought was really nice. It was donated for scholarship funds for kids who could not afford to go to school or to get the education that she was deprived of. So when we think about the impact that our giving make and how we can leverage it, I cannot say enough in terms of encouraging you to consider helping to leverage the funds through the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund so that we can do wonderful things. Consider visiting us on our website at www.tdjbreastcancerfund.org. And when we talk about philanthropy, I would be remiss if I didn't remind many or all of you who knows that the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund is an all-volunteer organization ever since it started as a support group in 2010. So this is work that is beyond the definition of commitment and passion, and it gives philanthropy a whole new definition. So again, when you want to make a donation, and Sylvia, I thank you so much for the 2 donations that you made earlier today to the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund. That was very kind of you and very generous as well. So before we move, I'd like to see if there are any questions that anyone would like to ask either Sylvia or Akilah. And I might mention, Edward, and I'm not putting you on the spot, but you work in philanthropy every day. And ever since I've known you from my days at the World Bank, you've been dealing with philanthropy. So it is part of your DNA at this point. And so in the questions, if anyone has any questions to ask Sylvia or Akilah, now would be a good time before I bring on Edward Jones and also ask, while he talks about his professional and personal journey, that he shares some reflections on philanthropy as well.
I actually have a question for Akilah. And looking at the, well, I have 2 quick questions. One is looking at 828. How does a nonprofit like on the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund, how do they do a campaign for 828? And then in looking at this new generation where everybody seems so self-centered, it's about me, how do we encourage this generation to give back?
Well, thank you for the questions. So for Give 828, they have a registration deadline. So I do know that for this year, for in order for organizations to be eligible to set up their campaign, they would have needed to have done that by a date that was a little earlier this month. However, I invite everyone to follow Young Black Giving Institute, as well as Give 828. Go to give828.org. and pay attention to one, just the information around the importance of the date, like why August 28th. There's a lot of historical context that's very specific to why that date is selected, as well as go and look at the list of organizations that are there. Do searches based on your issue areas. If you have an interest in health, if you have an interest in say youth programs, go. So for any organization, I say follow the institution and make sure that you're mindful that I believe they start opening registration as early as maybe late June or definitely in July, that you can make sure that your organization is registered. And so eligibility is tied to that the leadership, whether that's the CEO or the board or et cetera, is able to be verified that it is Black led, as well as that the organization is predominantly Black benefiting. And so make sure you register and get set up, and then you set up your page, and you have your dedicated page where you can put information about your organization. You can include photos, you can include videos, you can link it to your social media, and really help to drive people to come to their page, and they can see how many contributions. You can set your own goal for how much you're looking to raise. My recommendation is that you're very clear as to what are you raising funds for. Don't make a general call to action. Yes, provide general information about what you do, but make it very specific as to how much are you wanting to raise and what specifically is it going to address. Do you need to raise $1,000 in the month of August so that you're able to provide after school meals for the next 3 months for your after school program? Like, be specific. That's me putting on my fund development hat in a way of which like you can ensure that you are helping to provide a clear message as there may be people just visiting the website through the national promotion of this given day. And so people are just going and they're doing searches and they're looking, but so they may identify, just find you organically, but also in that ensure that you're doing your own marketing and promotion as well. So that's my suggestion on that. Now, for the young folks, I answered this question recently as I was speaking about Black Philanthropy Month to the Dallas-Fort Worth Urban League Young Professionals. And my response is the same. So I can understand where a person's motivation for engaging in philanthropy could be self-centered. Not to say that it's all 100% self-centered, but we have limited time. We're being pulled different ways. Many of us, as we see the numbers and the ways that many Black women are, predominantly unemployed and underemployed. However, and many folks are just like, I have to be very strict or, just very strategic and intentional about what I do with my time and my resources. There's a lot that's before us right now. But there's something in you that may be saying as a younger person, but I still want to do something. And or, look, I only have a little bit of time and energy. My push is show up, because ultimately, the way you show up in the community, oftentimes, or let me just say, it can and should and can be leveraged for your personal benefit. When you're able to demonstrate various skill sets, you're showing up and I'm dedicating this amount of hours of volunteer time. That demonstrates that you are a whole person versus just like, I'm just really good at this one thing and you only know me for my degrees or my accolades or what I'm able to do in this particular role. However, when you're able to layer on your philanthropy, your time, your talents, and your giving, that demonstrates another level of who you are. And that is very appealing oftentimes for those who are seeking out people to hire for different roles, because they see you it elevates you in the way that you are valued and seen as a leader and not just an end user, as well as it helps to build skill sets. So I started, my career in philanthropy as an executive assistant, but I was able to serve in committees and boards and dedicate, this extra time. Even as a single mother, let me just say that, as a single mother, I still drag my baby with me to these meetings, but I was able to build up skill sets in other areas that didn't show up in my day-to-day job. So this is how, for young people, you can see how this translates to, yes, there's the heart component. And I know many folks, other generations be like, you should just do it because it's the right thing to do. Or if you're leaning in from your faith standpoint, that is what, likely your faith text may tell you or advise you to do that's representative of your faith. And then there's folks who ultimately, what about me and what do I get from it? So for me, young people, yes, there are all the layers of why you show up and how philanthropy can be beneficial to you. And so showing up, investing your time, putting your name on, if you want to, like, if it's about the, writing checks, yes, sow seeds, and there's recognition with that. There's the ways that there's benefits that you receive, and the way that these causes will steward the relationship with you. Maybe your name gets listed in the luncheon bulletin. Isn't that nice? You can show your mom, look, I'm listed here. Or, all the other ways that you can demonstrate your commitments and for yourself, as well as for being an example for your family. So that is how I kind of convey how young people can see themselves in showing up in philanthropy that, maybe in alignment with but that seems so selfish, but likely it is not. But I just want to keep it, yes, I'm gonna keep it real for where people are in their livelihood today. Everyone doesn't have the capacity or the ability or even the knowledge or know how to, in stepping foot into these community-based spaces. And so for me, these are some examples that we can just start. And then hopefully by way of you just starting to do it, you truly begin to grow and build a love for this work, for the people, for a cause, for an issue. And it doesn't have to be everything. You don't have to want to save the world. You don't want to have to save all the dolphins, all the trees, all the Black folks in every single community of every corner of America. You pick that piece that it's special to you, and that's what you hold, close to your heart, and you invest what you can there.
Well, thank you so much, Akilah, for those helpful tips and words of wisdom. And thank you also for sharing that about 828, which I think is a good program. As a matter of fact, the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund has participated in 828 before. Edward, I think, isn't it Ebony Cooper Johnson who does Young Black Giving Back?
Ebony Johnson Cooper, that's correct.
Yeah, so Ebony and I have known each other for years in the philanthropy circle. And there have oftentimes over the years that I have sent out information and encouraging others to participate in 828. So it is a good program. And again, thank you. And we, in the interest of time now, we will welcome Edward Jones, who may not need an introduction because Akilah has done such a wonderful job in talking about the track record that he has. But because Edward is also a friend of mine, I have to say a little bit about him. So Edward brings a unique and powerful perspective as an outstanding person who I've known, as I mentioned earlier, since my World Bank days in the 1990s. So we didn't just start this yesterday. Edward will combine his extensive professional expertise and personal experience. He serves as the Vice President of Programs and Philanthropic Advising Services at ABFE, which is the Association for Black Foundations Executives, which is a philanthropic partnership for Black communities. So in addition to his leadership in philanthropy, Edward is a stage 4 prostate cancer survivor whose journey is a testament to resilience, faith, and perseverance. Tonight, he will share his story, and some of you may have heard his story before because this is at least the 4th time you've spoken, if I am correct. So let's welcome my dear friend, Edward Jones. The floor is yours, Edward.
Well, thank you, Cousin Thelma and friend. Talking about full circle moments, Akilah, not knowing that conversation we would have some 10 plus years ago would bring us back into this space, to me is a blessing to my spirit. Thelma, we do go back, I would say like 4 flat tires, particularly in this philanthropic space that I must say was not, it was not a professional, aspiration for me. We get in these spaces sometimes because it is truly what we've been assigned and tasked to do, what we were put on this earth to do. And so I'll lead in the space of, in this moment of saying that to me, I consider a ministry, but I think back, as I'll share for a little bit, how I really was a philanthropist and didn't realize it. I was a pass-through agent for philanthropy, and I think a lot of us were. If you think back to those times when you were in church and your parent or guardian would give you a quarter or a dollar or something and put it in your hand, and then you were supposed to, in turn, put it in the plate when the plate was passed. You were a pass-through philanthropist. You just didn't know it. Now, you wanted to, probably like me, wanted to keep the money, but it was really in the spirit of giving that was a way in which we have often inadvertently been taught the importance of giving, even while we resented it sometimes. I think back to my time in college, or even in high school, where there would be things that we would do that were in the spirit of being community minded and focused. But I particularly think, because I had a whole nother journey, it'll be in a book that will come out at some point in my life. But I can think back to, because of my fraternity, Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated, and our other members of the Divine Nine, who would do canned food drives and other giving ways. And I could think back, I was having to see an older picture, a picture of that with a group of us holding these canned foods that we were given to some local nonprofit. And I was thinking, in retrospect, there was times in my college career that I literally could have used that can. I literally was one that needed a benefactor, given some just challenging times. And I think many of us can have those stories, but for the grace of God, we have, come around and been able to go and move beyond those things. And so I reflect on that in the overall space of giving, and to the extent that I'm appreciating all the names that have been lifted up in this space of the people like Ebony and Osceola and Valeda Fullwood, who she just spoke to our organization earlier today, and talked about her work around giving back and giving Black in North Carolina. And so for me, as I came into this space, as I tend to say, by accident, literally because someone had an accident, that I was working for the Council on Foundations, and I had just got let go from a job that I actually hated at the time, and wasn't sure what I was going to do. But when I recognized the fact that they invited me to leave and gave me a severance package, I was like, well, look at God. This is a blessing right here. And not knowing what I was going to do next, but having a cushion to give me some time to think about it, brought me through another friend who was working in the philanthropic space, connecting me with an organization that I really just interviewed just really as a stopgap, if you will, until the next journey. And that short-term job is really where I came to know Thelma, as we and Tracy's compelled vision that linked with a group that was called the Black Philanthropic Alliance. That was a network of Black professionals in the sector in the DC area who were working in philanthropy in some way, but weren't giving. And so that vision, as Thelma put, and I put in the chat earlier, how Tracy had this vision that led to the creation of Black benefactors. That was the giving circle that Thelma and I and Tracy and Ebony and a number of other people were members of for over 15 years. I put links to some of these things in the chat. That's one thing I appreciate around being on Zoom calls, just for your all's review at your convenience. But what was beautiful about that giving was really it speaks to the things that were mentioned earlier. People that didn't understand, didn't have a full concept of what even philanthropy was, but they knew they wanted to do something. And so the giving circle that was created from that literally we gave much in the way that Akilah talked about. Her organization was giving, a part of a giving circle that was truly committed to finding ways, all volunteer, but finding ways in which we wanted to support nonprofits that were Black-led and Black focused, in the spirit of our being acutely aware, painfully aware of the fact that Black-led, Black focused organizations are the linchpin to our oftentimes our survival in communities, these ways in which we show up, and are under-resourced, historically under-resourced. And it's a particularly important thing to name at this time, in this season, where we're seeing this retrenchment of giving, even when there were Black bodies that were sacrificed, that brought attention to the need to move as a more racially just and equitable society. Though the spirit of that was once moving in such a space that required and compelled people to start acting and taking action, that spirit has been fading in some ways, or people have been questioning the need for that. The need has not stopped. It's just the giving that has become more of a challenge. So now more than ever, there is a need for us to be intentional about how we give. And with August being Black Philanthropy Month, and that spirit of giving on 8/28, I was putting that, that little extra seed, playing that extra seed, like they say in the church house, becomes a really critical part of how we can show up for each other and show up for our community, particularly in these times that have literally attempted to undermine the things that the people like the Osceola McCarthys and other people in our society and our history have worked long and hard to help us get to where we are today, on the heels and the backs and the purses and wallets of people that came before us, that did give their time, talent, and treasure in which to be better. I have to laugh because there's a friend on this call, Luz, who I laugh because we were collective simultaneously in a local Black tea shop, and I was getting it's no longer here, but I was getting my tea, and there was this group of sisters that were plotting and planning over on the side, and my nosy ears perked up when I heard something about philanthropy, and I inserted myself into their conversation, because when I hear that word, it is a buzzword for me. It does just trigger me to think, well, what does that mean to you? What are you doing? What are you doing about that? And that led to a totally unplanned but planned, divinely ordered relationship around some amazing work that Luz has been doing. And so I wanted to shout that out, particularly in this time, because oftentimes, as we're all here for a reason, the reason is inspired by my cousin in love, and Thelma D. Jones, and her breast cancer work that has been part of an element that I've been made aware of even before I was diagnosed with. Sometimes we just go from things. I went from being in active monitoring mode for 7-8 years, almost 10 years in 2023 to 2024, going from active monitoring to January 2024 of being diagnosed with stage 4 prostate cancer. And in all honesty, as many folk have that I've been encountered along this journey have said and have witnessed, oftentimes when you even hear that word cancer, it's often really, time to start getting ready to meet your maker. We start thinking immediately of the terminal aspects of it, the idea that life, or the end of the life as we know it, is imminent. And I must say, in this space of thinking about giving, there is that idea of time and talent that becomes another vital part of the giving that shows up for us in this spirit of this work and our just existence. It's giving because we have a resource of some sort to give. And so as Thelma has been open with her stories, that has inspired me to equally be open and sharing with others in a way that has opened up conversations for me and other people to say, oh, well, pull me over to the side and say, oh yeah, I'm dealing with that myself. I've had brothers come to me with that, or have people who have reached out to me, or have had people have asked other people to reach out to me for my journey, and other people have poured into me as I've been able to hopefully pour into them around this journey. And most of it is because, in 2024, there were news stories of people that were dying, that had died of prostate cancer. So I really did think it was just a matter of moments in time. And so to even be here as I prepare to celebrate another milestone birthday this next month, I have nothing but gratitude and appreciation for the fact that I minimally could give a resource and put people in contact with things that have been of benefit to me. That becomes an important part of us as we think about what our own respective journeys are. And oftentimes that can be more valuable than anything that we can think about giving, any check that we can write, because sometimes it's giving people hope is a priceless gift. So I really appreciate these times and the times I've been able to be with Thelma, and always a distinguished and beautiful group of people that are willing to share and to listen and to be part of a village that so often we know and need to have. And so to that end, I'll wrap up a couple of things I want to share, because I love the idea that we were talking about this Give 828 and that day of giving. But I'll also put in the chat another place for, if you know of nonprofits, particularly Black-led focused nonprofits that are particularly in need of giving, 364 other days of the year of resources. Giving Gap is another Black-founded nonprofit network. You can put in your organization, upload your information, your organization. There's a directory there for nonprofits to put in, and people can search on it by going to say, well, I want to give to, education, or fill in the blank. There's a variety of organizations literally around the country that are available for that as a resource to consider. And so I consider the opportunities that I do have as I'm on this journey, that I told my oncologist that I want us to be in agreement that we're going to have me here as long as I'm supposed to be here. And I know the oncologist is not God, or the doctors are not God, but I know what, how my God has shown up for me in these spaces. I was in the private chat telling Luz, it's like the 5th day that I haven't had the back pain that has been nagging me for a while. These things that crop up for us as we're on these cancer journeys, or whatever journey is that we're trying to heal through. We count it all joy. And sometimes it's some of the smallest victories that show up for us, where we can just have a night that doesn't have us in pain, is a joy that many people take for granted. But I don't want to be that person that takes any gift of prayer or just sharing for granted, because all too often, sometimes people just don't have that as a resource and as a gift. And so we are all gift givers, and we are all in this space that we have something that we can give, and knowing that we can and should, as Akilah said, some folks were saying it give because it's the right thing to do, and that's not a bad thing to even think with that as a lens of understanding our own way of being. We were not put on this earth just for some random activity, but really we do have a purpose. And oftentimes when we find that purpose and leaning into that purpose, it becomes not just a gift to those that we are being purposeful for, but also a gift to us to understand the whys we are here. Oftentimes people talk about that why. And so in the spirit of giving, in the spirit of Black Philanthropy Month, the why for us is because we should. And so I'll end with that, with appreciation again for your ears and time, and just for you being you in our respective spaces in which we occupy. I'll stop there for now.
Thank you so much, Edward, for your continued strength, resilience, your advocacy work, and the philanthropic efforts that you make around helping others. Certainly, when you mentioned about your work of trying to respond to others, I know I have texted and called on you a number of times, referring people, and you have always been very receptive to my calls. So, on behalf of the people that you've spoken to through the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund, thank you so much. And it goes without saying, we're here for you, because we know in this cancer journey, in breast cancer, prostate, or any kind of cancer, we are all here so that no one has to travel that journey alone. And also, thank you for accepting the invitation at the Alpha Street Baptist Church. That I understand the two of us are supposed to be tabling at that event on Saturday. Is it September the 18th or the 19th? I should know that, but I will be sending out information about that event. It's Saturday, September the 19th. And I trust many of you, particularly the people who live here in the area, are familiar with Alfred Street Baptist Church. So thank you again. Are there any questions for Edward? Okay. So in terms of announcements, I did just mention one announcement about the health fair at Alpha Street Baptist Church on Saturday, September the 19th. We invite you to come out to that. I also want to tell you about an important study that is going on, and it is the Voices of Black Women. How many of you are familiar with Voices of Black Women? Okay, so it's a very important study that's being conducted by the American Cancer Society, and it's basically looking at why women like me, why Black women, like a lot of you that are on this call, are dying as much or as fast as we are. We all know when we hear about clinical trials and studies that Black people, Black women, are not included in a lot of the studies. So if we are not there, then it's going to be difficult for science researchers and doctors to know what it is that's going to treat us properly. We have to be there so that our elements, conditions can be discovered, known, and studied. So Voices of Black Women is a landmark study, as I said, to help improve the health of Black women. Our goal is to recruit 100,000 Black women in the U.S. over the next few years. And we're looking for Black women between the ages of 20 and 60 who've never been diagnosed with cancer except less aggressive skin cancer. And again, the study is here in the US. So how and what will you do if you become a part of the study? You will go through an initial 1-hour online survey and 2 30-minute check-ins each year. So by sharing your personal health experience, you will help build knowledge that can strengthen care for generations of Black women. So you may say, well, I'm out of the age range, or I may have had an aggressive form of cancer. At any rate, even if you don't necessarily meet the requirements that I have just shared with you, We all know Black women in the category of ages 20 to 60, whether it's our colleagues, our neighbors, in our faith-based institutions, our sororities, our colleges, our high schools. We can go on, where you would have the opportunity to tell someone about voices of Black women. If you know of someone who is interested in signing up for the study, please ask them to go to Voices of Black Women through cancer or cancer.org. You can log on to the American Cancer Society and just Google Voices of Black Women. It is an important study, and I would encourage you to consider being a part of it if you're eligible or helping me to spread the word. So, are there any questions about the voices of Black women?
Akilah has her hand up.
Okay, yes.
Well, I can wait. My question wasn't directly tied to the Voices of Black Women study. It was I didn't get my hand up fast enough for Edward. So, but no, that's wonderful. Thank you for sharing.
Okay, well, thank you. We certainly don't want to miss a question to Edward because it'll help bring him back. He says Thelma always has an angle. No, it's not an angle, Edward. It is just leveraging the outstanding work that you do in an audience that has a global reach. Now, we're happy to say that we have Colleen Moran here from Cleveland, Ohio. We also have, let's see, I saw her a minute ago from Houston, Texas. Regina Bly was on the line for a long time from Houston, Texas. And here in the Washington, D.C. area, we have Desi Waters, who has her own podcast. And Desi, I am sure that you would like to reach out to Edward Jones and to have him on your podcast.
Well, before we do that, I need to know what Akilah's question is.
Okay.
And I can simply say from Desi Waters, you got that right. I would love to have him on my podcast.
I'd
Okay.
be more than happy to join you the same way.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Okay, Akilah.
Yeah,
I was just making sure that Edward knew that whatever question you asked isn't just going to be here. It's going around the world.
Yes. Well, it's going to New York with Luz. It's going to North Carolina with Angie Harvey. It's going to go in a lot of places. So
absolutely, and we're gonna make sure we put Dallas down too. So my question for you, Edward, I would love to hear your perspective around the ways that there's the intersection of advocacy with philanthropy. I've had the pleasure of serving on the Association of Fundraising Professionals PAC board, and which also allows me to serve on their Government Relations Committee from a national standpoint. And so, we're working tirelessly to lobby and support from a national legislative as well as state wide impact in how we're working to protect the dollars, philanthropic dollars, the ways of which everyday people can, have the tax benefits. And so from that perspective in my industry and how I, work at the intersection, as well as I've, formerly worked with a social justice organization and wanting to ensure that we're able to protect causes and advocate and make sure that we're protecting organizations, many of whom, especially as Black-led and Black-centered, have been under direct attack from national legislation, as well as even, I'm sure, local and state wide policies and changes. For example, here in the state of Texas, and the way that they changed intentional investment in Black and really non-white businesses. So I just would give that context, and would love to hear from you in the ways in which, how you see everyday people and how we can use our voices, as well as our collective power, to ensure that we're protecting philanthropy and Black businesses, Black causes, Black giving.
Yeah, thank you, Akilah. I appreciate the question, and it is a good time for us all to be reflective of just how important it is individually and collectively. As was said, I work for ABFE, a philanthropic partnership for Black communities, been around for this will be the 55th year of its existence, but it's the organization upon which ABFE was founded, or through which ABFE was founded, the Council on Foundations, is also an advocacy organization for philanthropy. You use the term advocacy very strategically because the legally, in most cases, philanthropic or nonprofit institutions cannot lobby, where many other institutions do and put a lot of money towards influencing policies for good and bad. That we don't have the similar means of doing so, but we can certainly advocate for issues that we believe in. And what tends to show up, particularly for Black-led and other identity-based organizations that oftentimes are wearing multiple hats, are in that space of, yeah, you're running an after-school program, but if only the state legislature would put more money towards after-school programs, your work could be a lot easier by having other resources. And we don't recognize the interconnectedness of these things often enough, nor do we often enough recognize the fact that too many people forget that our governments are our employees. They exist on our money as tax-paying folk. They are either hired or fired through our voice and our vote. And so you're naming the idea of the critical importance of individual engagement as well as collective engagement does translate as truly a call to action, particularly as we're moving into these midterms and every election, every year that oftentimes has some electoral process taking place. We have got to be more intentional around our engagement, and particularly knowing as you can't even, you can ignore the news if you want to, but there's so many different ways that folks are literally undermining the very things that our folk have fought for, that have literally been bruised, have died to get us these rights to vote, and to see that these things are being compromised, that there's been suppression going on, that there's other ways in which we are being denied that power, because there's so much power in that, in our voice and our vote. Once we harness that, and I think people are truly harnessing that, you see on the tail end of yesterday's midterm primaries and other things that are showing up, as we continue to harness that, the idea of people getting souls to the polls, all the things that are showing up for us are true ways of activism that becomes an advocacy strategy that is such an imperative now. It's important. So I wouldn't say it's important more now than it has ever been. It's always been important. But this is another season where we're recognizing without that, we stand to lose so much that we've already gained. And so the idea of the folks getting out of their, sometimes out of their own idea of, well, oh, it's government is a failed. Well, if government is failing, then that speaks to us more, even as much as it speaks to those who are failing us. Because again, those government entities, those people that are elected, are our employees. And when we look at it from that approach, and if you are a business owner, you want to make sure your employees are doing their job. And if your employees aren't doing their job, you may give them probation. But at the end of the day, you decide that their services are no longer needed, and move on to who you need to move on to. That's not a partisan statement. That is a statement that speaks to the need for us to understand the power that we all hold individually. And it's even more powerful, just like the idea of giving and giving circles. The more we put our heads and hearts together, we are that much more powerful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And thank you, Edward, and thank you, Akilah, for being here. We hope that we can welcome you back again. And thank you so much, Sylvia, for connecting us. And as we talk about Philanthropists. I would be remiss if I didn't mention the ones that are here in our circle on a daily and regular basis, such as Jan Adams, who is the co-owner of DC Powers Football Club, which is a women's soccer team here in the nation's capital. Also, Mamie Mallory, who is of Mallory and Associates, a very generous benefactor who serves on the Washington Airport Board and has her own company. And I might mention, in addition to Jan co-owning DC Powers Football Club, she is also the founder and CEO of JMA Solutions, the organization she originally founded. And she is also the president and CEO of Ideal Electric Corporation. Jan serves as an honorary board member of the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund. And as I tell her regularly, she gives honorary a whole new dimension. We are also very proud to have an honorary member, and who both Jan, Mamie, and Reggie Van Lee, who I'm mentioning next, have spoken a number of times on the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund's support group meeting. We also have Laverne Chapman, a longtime friend who've done a lot of grassroots, the two of us have done a lot of grassroots work. Laverne has the Chapman Fund and a whole list of other accomplishments. And Maxine Baker, who a breast cancer survivor and who has spoken at our meetings, and of course, Tracy Webb that we have mentioned previously. I am also very honored to have a number of the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund ambassadors on the line: Denise Triplett, Karen Hargrove, Sherry Dinkinson Trott, Regina Bly, who was on earlier from Houston, Texas, Angie Walker, and Anthea Peters. So thank you very much. And I encourage all of you to look at the August newsletter of the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund, which our newsletter editor, LaShawna Thomas Walker, does a fabulous job each month. LaShawna Thomas Walker lives in Atlanta, Georgia, and has served as our newsletter editor as a volunteer, speaking of philanthropy, for more than 6 years. And our feature article is about Haley Blasingame, who is the author of a book that is, and that I had it handy here earlier to show it to you, but a number of civic leaders hosted a wonderful book signing for her at Politics and Prose. And Jen White, who is the host for NPR's, Jen White, who is the host of NPR's 1A, moderated that book signing. The name of Haley Blasingame's book is They All Fall in Love at the End. And it's a real raunchy, juicy book. So you want to pick up a copy of it and read it. It's the kind, if you think you might be slightly depressed, there goes your depression. So I've purchased several copies of the book, so I encourage you to read it and to read the article in our newsletter. Speaking of another book, we are organizing a book club reading of a book entitled Treasures in Darkness: A Doctor's Personal Journey Through Breast Cancer. And that book is by Taffy A. Anderson, MD. Some of you may recall that Taffy and her two sisters, all breast cancer survivors, appeared on the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund support group meeting it was either March or April. And Taffy and her sister Marie and their niece will be guest speakers at the September meeting of the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund, where we will also celebrate for the first time celebrate Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month. As many of you may know, there's a close correlation between breast and ovarian cancer, and there is a correlation between breast and prostate cancer, which is one of the many reasons that we have Edward Jones here. Also on that meeting, we will celebrate my 74th birthday, and I can just see all of you shaking your heads and saying, my God, she does not look like she's 74. She looks like she's probably only about 40 or 50. But we will celebrate not only my 74th birthday, but also the anniversary of the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund. And our invited guest speaker is a guest speaker that we have had. I think now this will make her sixth time speaking in September. It's Dr. Vanessa Shepard, who is a very prestigious person with VCU, Virginia Commonwealth University. And it was in 2022, she received one of the largest research grants in the state of Virginia from the American Cancer Society. Okay. And that's September. And in October, we will celebrate Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Dr. Carla Williams of the Howard University Cancer Center will be our guest speaker. And along with, I'm actually having chemo brain as good as I know our other speaker. Oh, this is so embarrassing, but it is part of the Howard University contingency, and we will recognize Dr. Lori Wilson, who we will celebrate the life and legacy of Dr. Lori Wilson, who was a nationally, if not internationally known breast cancer advocate, survivor, and doctor at Howard University. So with that, I will just give our closing remarks, unless there is a brief announcement that someone would like to make. I will give our closing remarks and look forward to seeing you at our next meeting.
Thelma, I just wanted to make a brief announcement that the National Association, the National Consortium of Breast Centers, that the event that you co-chair with me, our annual conference, which will be in May this year of 2027, is going to be in Florida. We're excited. That announcement is hot off the press. We're going to be getting it out on social media, but our advocacy symposium will be a part of that conference, and it will be in Orlando, Florida, May 14th through the 16th. So we'll definitely be updating you, but that is the hot off the press information.
Okay, and thank you. And would you like to announce your meeting or our meeting tomorrow with Tandy Montgomery?
Yes, Tandy Montgomery is a breast cancer survivor. She's also a motivational speaker, but she did a TED talk dealing with people pleasing and how people pleasing can impact our health. So tomorrow she's going to be our featured guest at 7 p.m. and the Zoom link will also be on the Thelma D Breast Cancer Fund page. I'll put my information if you would like the Zoom link, but it will be at 7 p.m. and she's going to talk about how people pleasing can impact our health.
Thank you. Thank you. And so if there aren't any further announcement, I will share some closing.
Actually, Thelma, it's not an announcement. I just wanted to comment and I just wanted to give you your flowers. Thank you. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for supporting my community.
Well, thank you so much, Christine. And I know you have at least 4 people that you've invited. I see Mary that's on the line.
Actually,
And
five. It's fine.
okay, I see you all. So thank you from the residents of James Creek. And our Samsung user has been busy the whole while. She's been entertaining us with her on-camera antics. Okay. So thank you. And that was a wonderful book bag giveaway that you and the Good Projects did last week. So thank you. So as we close or conclude with tonight's wonderful celebration of Black philanthropy, I hope that you have been uplifted even more.
Yeah.
And I certainly want to thank our speakers, our participants, survivors, thrivers, caregivers, volunteers, our donors, our community partners, and our friends, whether you're joining us virtually and or on Facebook. So this evening, we have been reminded that philanthropy is not just reserved for the wealthy. Philanthropy is love in action. It is serving, giving, mentoring, encouraging, advocating, supporting, and investing in the well-being of others. So throughout our discussion this evening, we have heard many voices, but they all point to one movement, a movement rooted in generosity, compassion, resilience, and community. The Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund is a witness to this spirit every day, consistently every day. We see it in our survivors who share their stories, like people like Edward, our caregivers who offer support, volunteers who give their time, and advocates like Sylvia who raise awareness, and donors like Sylvia who provide resources, and community members like Christine and all of our good friends from James Creek Resident Council who lift one another up during life's most challenging moments. So as we celebrate Black Philanthropy Month, let us remember that every act of kindness makes a difference. Whether you give through your church, your community organization, a giving circle, a nonprofit, or simply by helping a neighbor in need, you're participating in a long and proud tradition of Black philanthropy. So together we honor the legacy of those who have come before, who came before us, while creating opportunities for those who will come after us. So thank you in a million ways for supporting our meeting this evening and for keeping the legacy of Black philanthropy alive. Good night, and I look forward to seeing everyone in September.
Amen. God
Thank
bless
you.
you all.
Thank
Wonderful.
you.
Good night, all.
Okay.
Thank you for a wonderful meeting.
Thank you.